first section?
Well, I don't want to get too back to but for doubling, basically in a root position, you want to always double the root. Okay. Now, so over here. So in a root position chord, you double the root. Okay. In a first inversion, you have choices. The first choice is to double the soprano with an inner voice, either the tenor or the alto. So double whatever's in the soprano with an inner voice. So that could mean something like that even. Okay. The second choice is to double the bass with an inner voice. So something like that. The third choice is to double the bass with the upper voice. So like that. So this would be first, second, third. And the last choice in a first inversion is to double the inner voices on the same note. Okay? So in first inversion, all of this is first inversion.
You have variety, as we talked about in a couple segments ago.
Yeah. And all of those are possible, but these are the strongest and these are the weakest. And lastly, in second inversion, you want to double the note that's in the bass. So you're always going to double this pitch in second. Okay?
Only one option.
Only one option, yeah.
That's good.
And yeah, it is good. So yeah, again, you know, those are the rules. Just do them. Now, again, it's not that you won't find other doublings sometimes, like in a root position, the third double, especially with minor triads. You might find that more often. But those are the minority still. You know, so those are the lesser cases. So don't, you know, always try and do always try to do the standard thing. And there will be very, very, very few instances where the standard thing will not work out in some way. You might, like if you're realizing a figured bass, you might have to go back and rip out the first 5 chords. But you can definitely use a standard doubling on the 6th chord if you go back and do that, you know what I'm saying? So most of these things can be worked out by using the standard doublings. Okay.
So in the 7th chord, if we don't have a 7, we can double only the root, not.
Yeah, this. What are you talking about? You're talking about the dominant 7th chord, like
Yes.
5/7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the only doubling that ever happens in that is if you omit the 5th and double the root. Otherwise, because you have 4 notes in the 7th chord, you're not doubling anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just have soprano, alto, tenor, bass, one on each note. It's only if you omit the 5th you can double the root. And you could still do that in some of these other situations. Let's see, you could do it in this one, but you could conceivably do it. Like, let's say in this one, let's say you just couldn't abide having that D there. You could actually double the root here if you needed a certain line or something. That's going to change how you're going to resolve this one, but you could do that. Okay. So omitting the 5th is okay in some of these other inversions, but it's just not often done because you don't need it. When you're working with inversion, you end up with a lot more flexibility and you don't have that problem that you have in root position part writing of the parallel 5ths.
Is the root different for another 7 chord?
What do you mean? The rules?
Mm-hmm.
No, see, generally, well, so for 7th chords.
Emphasize 5/7
Yeah. For seventh chords, generally the rule is still to resolve the seventh down by step. So, for example, let's say we had, oh, and the same is true of doubling. Let's say we're in C major and we have a 2-7. So that would be this chord. Okay? You would still want to take the 7th, the C, and resolve it down by step. And what's going to follow a 2 chord normally? 5, right? So to your 5 chord, that 7th is going to resolve to become the 3rd of the 5 chord. And maybe this is a 5-7 chord, so you're going to end up with something like that. Okay, so this 7th resolves down by step, and when you resolve this one, the same thing is going to happen, right? This 7th is going to resolve down by step. So yeah, for 7th chords, or even if you have a diminished 7th or whatever, the general rule is the 7th resolves down by step. There are other things you can fudge with, but the 7th resolving down by step is the biggest thing in all 7 chords. Well, go back. The real exception is the major 7th chord. So when you have something like this, this tone still has its kind of leading tone function. And so that, in that case, it might want to go to something like this, to like a 4 chord. And so you're going to resolve that 7th up because it's still the leading tone in the key that you're in. And it has that effect. But that's the only exception. Most of the time, 7th down by step, down by step, down by step. And leading tone up to tone. And again, if you just follow that rule, that will get you so far in traditional harmony. It's not even funny. You know, I mean, it's just, it can take you to so many places with just that rule, just resolving the 7th down by step. You don't have to worry about the exceptions. With the deceptive progression in the 7th chord, right? So if I'm doing instead 5, 7 to 6, it's still the same sort of resolution. Let's this chord this way. So the bass is going to move up by step because we're going to go from root position to root position. That's normal for deceptive progression. But the 7th is still going to resolve down by step, and the leading tone is we still want to resolve up to tonic.
Especially in the soprano part.
Is that right?
It's in the soprano part, especially in this.
Yeah, especially in the soprano part, yeah. And since normally when we get to a deceptive progression, we want to double the 3rd of the 6th chord, then taking the D down to the C is perfectly fine. And we wouldn't want to take it up to the E anyways, because that would give us parallel fifths, right? I mean, if we didn't have a doubled 3rd here, we would want a 5th, but if we did that, we'd have parallel fifths. So we still want to resolve 7th down by step, leading tone up to tonic. And then in a deceptive progression, you normally double the 3rd of the 6th chord, of the chord you're writing to. And that's based on the idea that that was your actual target anyways, right? The 1 chord was your perceived target, let's say, and that was based on C. And so you double the C to kind of further fool the ear that you are arriving on C. Okay? There is an exception to that if the leading tone is not in the top voice, you could resolve it to the 5th. But again, you don't really need to go there. This rule of resolving everything as it should be for deceptive progression will just work. It will just work all the time. And so it's only if you were like, I gotta have this certain melodic line in the tenors, I just have to, that I'm gonna resolve it down a 3rd. Any questions?